Hey guys, it's Sarah and I am back with another long-form YouTube video. Today we're going entirely unscripted. So if you want to watch me make another of those giant centerpieces for my wedding, except in brown stoneware this time instead of B-Mix, and listen to me chat about things that have been on my mind lately, then go ahead and get comfy, or if you have a task that'll take 20 minutes, whether that's the dishes or folding laundry, go ahead and get started and we can hang out and get some work done together. So the reason I'm going entirely unscripted today is because, first of all, writing a script for a 20-minute long video would end up being like a 10-page long script, which at that point is an entire essay, and I would be making a pottery video essay. And while I do actually really want to get into that, that's sort of my ultimate goal, I'm not currently ready to do that. I'm not at the skill level. I'm not at the preparation level yet. So rather than fret over a blank Google Doc trying to think of something that I can talk about intelligently for 20 minutes, I'm going to wing it and let go of the perfectionism, because ultimately when you are in that sort of procrastination state where you're like, oh, I really want to do this thing, I don't know how, it's going to be so much work, oh, I'd much rather be playing video games, the best thing to do is to just get something out. And for me, this is the best way that I was going to get this video out for you guys. I always try to practice what I preach. In other words, I try to model the techniques and sort of like philosophies I use to be as successful and happy as possible, given my executive function issues and some of my other mental health issues like PTSD and anxiety and depression. I'm pretty open about all of that stuff online, and also in person. I probably should have stronger self-boundaries of like what I should and shouldn't share, but whatever part of my brain that gets embarrassed about people knowing about my inner cerebral life, it's just missing. Which overall I think is a good thing, because I had a lot of resources growing up to help me with these issues, and even still I was so confused, and I just felt like, you know, when things aren't going well, it's my fault and I'm just broken, and other people are better than me, they're morally better than me because they work harder and things like that. And it's taken a lot of therapy and a lot of work to sort of start moving away from those really negative narratives I used to tell myself about myself, and be happier and more productive and find my sense of self-worth. And I tend to be pretty articulate about these things. I'm pretty psychologically minded. So as I'm working through these issues and learning about, you know, why things are difficult for me, what triggers me, and what helps me move through those things and feel better, I'm pretty good at sort of talking it out and explaining it in a way that other people can understand, and that seems to help people. I know that if I had had this type of content growing up that really laid things out in a vulnerable and honest way, that really would have helped me. So I like to think that what I'm doing here helps some of you guys, and I have definitely gotten feedback from you that that is the case. Today I want to keep talking about therapy and mental health, especially because I've been having a really hard time with the internet lately, probably for the same reasons that you are. I used to touch more on like politics and current day events. I stopped doing that a while ago, especially since the presidential election recently. And I think there are like a lot of reasons why I stopped doing that. So ages ago, back when the popular opinion online was still very pro-Israel, anti-Palestine, I did make a video saying that I believe what was happening in Palestine was a genocide, and that as a Jewish person, I was really disgusted with how so much violence and evil was being done in the name of self-defense. The story of the Jewish people, we are an oppressed people, to sort of use that to turn around and oppress others in this colonial project and dehumanize others, that was really disgusting to me, and that I still am proud of being Jewish, and I know a lot of Jewish people who were against it, but that it's important that we talk about things, especially when it's our government and our taxpayer dollars that are supporting it, right? Even now, that's obviously a very controversial opinion, and, you know, I'll probably get comments like, oh, you're buying into the propaganda, like that's all fake or whatever. But especially when I did post about it, which was like over a year ago, I want to say, I just got so many negative comments and DMs of people saying like, you're not a real Jewish person, you're disgusting, like you didn't even mention the hostages, you don't really care, you just, you know, whatever. And like that stuff didn't so much hurt my feelings or upset me as it made me very activated and angry, right? Like I felt the need to respond to every good faith, every mostly bad faith person who was responding to what I was doing, and I didn't really feel like I was changing anyone's minds. I don't regret posting it at all, especially since I have met some people in person who have said that hearing it from me and like they really value my opinion and they feel very similarly to me but haven't been able to articulate it the way that I articulated it, that it was really helpful for them to hear that from me. I also heard from a Palestinian woman who, you know, showed up to that in-person sale I did this summer, who said that it made her feel like, you know, people do care. She was never expecting a pottery creator to speak out for her people, and that it made her feel very supported and unalone and less afraid. So for those reasons, it was totally worth it, right? But when it comes to the fire hose of shit, essentially, that is our news cycle currently, and I don't want to like take the teeth out of either. It's not our news cycle, it's things that are actually happening. Terrible things are happening, and people are siloed into different sources of news and factuality. I like don't even want to like get into the specifics, but you know, if you've been here for a while, you know what I'm talking about, where it's like just the double standards, the conspiracy theories, all of that's really frightening and concerning, because if we can't agree on basic ass facts like what did and didn't happen, it's hard for me to see a way forward, right? So all that being said, I realized that posting my thoughts on current events was actually really bad for my mental health and wasn't changing anyone's minds. But I also have this immense survivor's guilt, and I told my therapist this. I was like, I feel immensely guilty about the fact that I haven't posted a video saying fuck ICE, free Palestine, since I posted one ages ago. And whether or not that sort of makes me a bad person, you know, that not speaking out about it, that would make me a bad person, and that I might be a bad person because I haven't been posting about it. And my therapist said something really smart, as usual, because she is a very smart person. If posting about current day events, politics, was something that negatively impacted me, to the point where it's inhibiting my work, it's inhibiting my sense of safety and reality, and made me feel more pessimistic, more hopeless. You know, if it has such a negative impact on my life and my ability to create and take care of myself and take care of the people around me, that's ultimately not worth it, right? Because when you post about current day events, you're either just affirming for the people who agree with you that, oh, good, you're one of the good ones, you agree with us, which, like I said, does have value. But you're also not changing anyone's mind. You know, no one's coming to my pottery video and, you know, seeing me say free Palestine and thinking, you know what? All that other stuff that people were saying, you know, like, that didn't make sense, but yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, I'm switching sides. You know, because when it comes down to it, I feel like what I'm good at doing is taking my own experiences and articulating them in a way that other people can relate to and learn about, whether they're learning about themselves or learning about loved ones they may have that struggle with similar issues. I am sort of like on this journey of improving my own quality of life through, you know, mental health awareness and practicing good habits and, you know, engaging in optimistic and positive philosophies that help push me forward and closer to the life that I want. And, you know, I'm not a political science major. I'm not a politics communicator or a pundit. There are already really, really smart creators who are, you know, they are dedicated to that sort of fight. They are more capable than I am of receiving that backlash, coming up with rebuttals and pulling up statistics and data and history. And that's just not my area of expertise. engaging in that makes me so much worse and almost incapable of doing the thing that I'm good at, which is talking about mental health and self-perception and how we relate to others and how we manage our own feelings, and just telling stories and being relatable, and being entertaining and informative. And I always fight my therapist on these things for at least a little bit until I, give in and realize that she's right. And so I was sort of like, well, I can't just say, well, like, that's not my niche, that's not my problem, so I'm not going to post. Not being an expert in politics and how to combat fascism doesn't exempt me from needing to contribute and having to try. And she was sort of like, well, if it is important to you, then we need to find a way to be able to do that without it negatively impacting you so much, right? I'm not sure that I'm there yet. But that might not always be the case. For right now, I do think that it benefits both me and my audience to keep this space free of that toxicity that is everywhere else. I'm sure that most of the people who are watching this video, who are in my audience, have been affected in some way by ICE, by policies made by the Trump administration. It's impossible for anyone to not have been affected. We're all living on a day-to-day basis with the disturbing and difficult realities of our current political situation. I've thought about it a lot. I do make a video that is more political. I'm basically opening the door for all of that discourse and everything that comes with it into this space. I don't want that. And sometimes I worry that that's really selfish, and sometimes I see it more as like a self-preservation thing, and not evil. I'm working on things not being so black and white. There's this gray area, which is where reality exists. So part of my therapy homework, honestly, is to accept that right now I am not posting about current events, and it's possible that that doesn't make me a bad person. I'd be interested to know how you guys feel and whether or not you struggle with this sort of conundrum of, what can I do to help this situation? Am I doing that? Is that enough? Am I a bad person if I don't do more? I think there's a lot of guilt in the left. That's literally what I've been describing for the last few minutes, is this immense guilt at my own privilege and immense guilt that I don't feel like I'm using it effectively and that maybe that's selfish. And I'd be interested to know where you guys are at. What action makes you feel empowered to help yourself and help others? What actions do you find radical, whether or not that's boycotting Target or going for walks, unsubscribing from streaming services, or going to protests, or leaving comments places, speaking out? What type of actions are you guys taking? Also, if you feel the same way that I do, which is sort of this lingering guilt of feeling like you're never doing enough. This can even extend to absorbing media related to current events. This week, my therapist and I concluded that I am consuming too much media, that I'm doom scrolling for too long. My algorithm just shows me all of the worst, scariest, most upsetting, unjust information of what's happening around the world, and it's making me depressed. It's making me super depressed. And it's like, boo-hoo, like, looking at it makes you sad, but think about all the people who are actually experiencing it. You're so privileged that just looking at other people's situations is what's making you depressed. Not suffering those conditions, but just looking at those conditions. It makes me feel kind of stupid. I'm at the point where I'm paying somebody hundreds of dollars to tell me to stop looking, right? And I feel like someone has to be looking. I should be looking.
But then, even as I say that, I can think of a lot of reasons why, I shouldn't feel that way, right? Like, what does doom scrolling actually do for anyone other than make you as the individual feel like shit and drain you from your ability to take care of yourself and the people around you? Like if I spend an extra hour on TikTok watching old clips of Charlie Kirk being the scum, the worst person on earth, and then scroll 2 more times to see clips of people crying for him and saying how he was an angel and how he's kicking it with Jesus and like the left is gonna pay, and I begin to feel afraid and anxious and concerned and angry, and I'm just sitting there and I've lost an extra hour to that, who have I helped? Who have I helped by doing that, right? So I'm not saying that, bury your head in the sand, be ignorant, and be unaware, right? Like, it's important to be aware. And while you engage with that, we should also keep in mind that our brains and, like, social instincts evolved for, like, our villages and communities. We were only ever supposed to know what was going on in our town, maybe the town over. But now we know what's happening everywhere, all the time, in graphic detail, and there simply isn't the capacity in the human body to feel the grief of all the lives being lost, of all the lives being ruined, of all the rights being taken away. If you were to feel all of that at once for everybody, you would just be rocking yourself in the corner crying forever.
Sorry guys, we are like very far into this video now, and I know it's been kind of a bummer. That's what happens when you don't script and just talk off of the dome. Sometimes downer stuff comes out, especially when you're me. But I really can't emphasize this enough. I put my phone down and stopped scrolling for hours at a time, and I started feeling a lot better. So if you've been feeling really, really bad lately, maybe it's time to put the phone down for a little while. People say go touch grass as like an insult or whatever, but truly being chronically online is terrible for you. It's so bad for you. And you're not doing anyone other than corporations any favors by spending a ton of time on these apps. And I know that's kind of ironic coming from a content creator, but if anything, that should be more of a sign that I'm telling you the truth, right? Like, I have no incentive to tell you to get off of your phone when you being on your phone and watching me is what makes me money. If I had to summarize the point of all this opining that I'm doing, I think I would say put your time and effort into things that make you feel effective, that make you feel agency, that make you feel empowered. I don't know. I don't know if any of this was coherent, and I'm also now, in hindsight, worried that maybe some people came and clicked on this video to feel good, and maybe this made them feel bad. But, here's the pot that I made. I do pottery. I'm a potter. Thank you so much for watching. I feel like every time I post, I'm learning more about this format. Please go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. It really, really helps me out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Voiceover Sarah out.